is voice of the boss, Mark Johnson, and you're listening to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast. It's been a while since we've been on, but excited to talk about the Buffs. I'm on with Topher, Sirayus. I have a very special guest, Max Chadwick from PFF. Max, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on, guys. I said this before too, but Colorado, the fan base has been unbelievably supportive of the PFF college football show that me and Dalton Wasserman do, and it is if you look at our numbers, it is actually hilarious comparing Colorado reviews and previews to every other review and preview that we've done. Like literally every Colorado review and preview is a guaranteed 30,000 views for us, and everything else was if we had 10,000, that's a really good video for us outside of Colorado. So I'm looking forward to this season, talking about the Buffaloes again this year. I know they lost a couple big superstars on that team, but it should still be a really interesting team in 2025. And I'm happy to go on any Colorado podcast and talk about them, considering just how amazing that they've been for our show last year.
Yeah, Max. I mean, I speak for all of us when I say we flocked towards that show because we felt that it was the first time we saw a national podcast, national publication, actually not just talk about the hype around the team, but actually talk about the performance on the field. Because what we were seeing was a team that was clearly improved. And we used to talk about PFF grades, this, PFF show that, on pretty much every episode because we felt like it was actually validating the eye test. So the feeling's mutual. I think Buff Nation loves that show.
I appreciate that, man. That's something that Dawn and I strive for, is just, talk about. And there's a lot of great people that discuss the drama off the field in college football and what goes into it, because obviously that's a huge part of the whole story is NIL and the portal and what's going on behind the scenes. Dolan and I, we grade every single play and every single player. So we just try to show, okay, this is what our grades say, this is what our analytics say, this is what our eyes say, because obviously we watch all the games too, and just go from there, right? So I think that's kind of how we try to do it, and it means the world that you guys, think like that of our show, because we love doing it, and I can't wait for another season this year.
We are a podcast that firmly believes in the PFF numbers, that's for sure. And I know a lot of people talk online about the PFF numbers, and they say, look at the numbers. But for those that are not as much into the film and not as much into, breaking down the X's and O's, tell us a little bit about how those grades come out and what those grades kind of mean.
Yeah, so we do the impossible task of grading every player on every play in every game, what at the NFL level, at the FBS level, at the FCS level, even some D2, UFL, CFL. We even did soccer for a little bit until I branched off for another company. So it's a lot. And we turn that around within 24 hours, really. So, for example, college grades would come out Sunday morning for every single game, which sounds insane. How do you get that done in that short time frame? We have hundreds of people who work on every game. Excuse me. And then they try to turn these out, and you got to be very highly trained to actually analyze and give out grades to a player on a play. I personally can't do it, even if I wanted to do it. But we do have hundreds of people who are trained to help out in terms of charting and where these players are and all that. And then our team of graders goes in, and they're trained by former NFL players, former coaches, current coaches and current NFL players say hey, this is what you should be looking for in each play. So we feel like we have a pretty good grasp. Obviously, the grades aren't perfect. They'll never be perfect. No stat is ever perfect either, right? But I think it gives the best context for players, really, in college football and the NFL. And it's on a 0 to 100 scale. So it's kind of like Madden, where it's if you're 90 or above, you're elite. 80 or above, you're really good. 70 or above, you're pretty good. 60 or above, you're about average. And then below 60 is where you start getting below average. And the players who really struggle out there too. So again, it's not a perfect stat. We have a ton of other stats that I really look at too when evaluating players, but it is one of the best stats I think out there right now.
Max, you mentioned Madden. I see you have a EA College Football 25 poster behind you there. I just finished playing my first EA College Football 26 game, beat Nebraska by about 40. So that was a good win for the squad. But does EA use the PFF grades, especially when they were making the game for the first time last year?
Yes. Yes, they have to. They don't have to. They don't want to. They could do their own evaluation. But I do know we have a partnership with EA. I've never personally worked with them. I'm excited to do so if I ever get that opportunity. But yeah, I mean, listen, like I can't even imagine the effort and time that goes into. I know how much it is for the NFL. Like that's hundreds of players already. You have to do that for thousands upon thousands of players in college football for 136 teams. Like that sounds impossible. So you can't really do that without the PFF numbers that we have. And listen, I mean, look at the ratings. I think it's pretty accurate for the most part. So I know for a fact that yes, they do use PFF, and I think you almost have to, considering we have the biggest database on every single player in the country. No other website has that. And if you're trying to rate every player in the country for a video game, like there's nothing else you can really do besides watch every game. And there's no way they can watch every game in the amount of time that it takes for them to come out with these ratings. So yeah, they do use PFF. I know that for a fact.
Cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Too many players to rate. Shifting gears a bit to CU football in particular. Max, just wanted to ask you kind of an open-ended question. What do you think is the biggest storyline for Colorado going into the 2025 season? And Topher and Sreyas, feel free to jump in here too. I'm curious for your guys' thoughts.
Who's playing quarterback? That is the biggest storyline. I was surprised. I wasn't shocked. I was a little surprised that Julian Lewis was at Big 12 Media Days. Not because I don't think he could be the starting quarterback. I think he absolutely can be. But you never, ever see true freshmen at Media Days, right? Coaches usually reserve that to seniors or the leaders of the team. And I think it said a lot when Julian Lewis is there at Big 12 Media Days. Of course, Caden Salter was also there too. But Deion even said it, right? Coach Prime even said it in his press conference, like, hey, I brought both of them here because I have no idea who's playing quarterback this year. So replacing Shedeur Sanders, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Colorado history, that's a tall task. And it's going to be interesting to see because they're two wildly different quarterbacks, right? It's not like it's like, oh, well, they could run the same offense. Like Caden Salter is a dual threat. You want to use his legs in the offense. Lewis is more the Shedeur mold, right? Where he's a pocket passer who's going to win with his accuracy and timing in the pocket. So they're very different. So that's why it's very interesting to me that they still don't really have an idea who's going to play quarterback week one. I think it'll be Salter if I had to guess, but if you put either of them in, it's going to be two completely different offenses. So I think that's a really interesting part of the team this year, in my opinion.
It's a great point.
Yeah, kind of related to that, but continuing on that path, we see that we could potentially have two different offenses. And we know that over the last couple of years, pass blocking and even run blocking has really, really struggled. And we know that they went into the portal again and they replaced those players just like they did last year. But going into the season, do you see a kind of like a big, gaping, weak position group moving forward? Could it be the line again? And then also moving forward, obviously we lost our Heisman do-it-all wide receiver cornerback, and then we also lost our high-level quarterback going into the season. So what could be kind of like that strong position group to replace it?
Yeah, I think that's the question mark I have for Colorado right now is just how effective is that passing game going to be, right? Because you lose one of the top quarterbacks in America, in my opinion, Shedeur Sanders, who probably should have been a first-round pick. I don't really understand how he fell that far in the draft. And then you have Caden Salter coming in, who was an okay passer at Liberty. He was a lot better the year before in 2023, but last year he only had like a 76 passing grade, which is like good, but like it's not what you're looking for an elite quarterback to replace Shedeur Sanders. And then your top four receivers are all gone too, including a Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter, right? So a lot's gone from that passing game from last year. And it's going to be interesting because Colorado rarely ran the ball last year. In fact, they had one of the lowest run rates in the country. That's going to change if Salter is playing quarterback. It should change a lot, actually, right? So the O-line, obviously, a lot of new faces in the O-line. You still have one of the best left tackles in America, and Jordan Seaton, in my opinion, too. But, yeah, that whoever's playing quarterback and then replacing all the weaponry that you lost to, that's the biggest question mark for me for Colorado right now.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the national media is going to be very surprised to see his wide receiver group bringing in Hakeem Williams, Sincere Brown, and even the guys there. Omarion Miller was an absolute stud last year and showed flashes along with Draylon Miller. Cam Tickell's a speed demon. So it'll be fun to see. I just want to chime in briefly. The position group I'm most worried about is the running game. That's been CU, for the last 3 years, and a lot of that is the O-line. But they didn't reload in the running game and lost some guys in the portal, so it'll be very interesting to see what they do with that running game. Max, how do you think the new coaching staff, like for example Marshall Faulk, will make an impact on at CU?
Yeah, I think he's going to be big, right? Because you just mentioned it. The run game is going to be really important this year. They're not going to be able to throw the ball, whatever it was, 80% of the time like they did last year. A guy like Down Hayden, right, with Marshall Faulk coming in, that could be huge for him. Learning from one of the greatest running backs of all time, that's big, right? So, like I said, especially if Caden Salter is playing quarterback, and even if not, even if Julian Lewis is playing quarterback, it's still a true freshman out there. So you're going to want a run game to rely on for a true freshman. Like, he can't be going out there and throwing the ball 45 times a game like Shador was. Probably not as a true freshman. And Salter especially, you want a run game that's dynamic so that the read option game is really working out for that offense. So the run game is huge for Colorado. They're not going to be able to play offense like they did last year, just throwing the ball literally every single play basically. They're going to have to rely on the run game a lot more this year, in my opinion.
Totally.
I think we're all on the same page on that. I think we all spam the inside zone when we're playing college football as Colorado. Like, see how easy it is, Pat? Make the right call, Pat. But what transfer portal addition do you think will have the biggest impact for CU this year? I mean, I think for us, our opinion and our hope is that it was the D-line. But kind of, where does the PFF kind of see that coming through?
Yeah. And even Max, to give you a second to think it over, I'm just going to read out some of the higher ranked transfers just for our listeners. Jaheim Otis, highest ranked transfer for 247 Sports, 92 rating. He came over from Alabama. Interior defensive lineman. Then you have Sincere Brown, Hakeem Williams, who I mentioned, both wide receivers, 4-star transfers. Noah King, 4-star safety transfer from Kansas State. Xylon Chrysler, an interior offensive lineman from Illinois. Xavier Hill, another offensive lineman who might be a tackle potentially, we'll see, from Memphis. So just to list out a few. Even doesn't have to be on that list, Max, but yeah, what are your thoughts?
I love Xavier Hill. He was a really, really good player at Memphis, and why I'm not, pressing the panic button or anything like that in the Colorado offensive line. You got him. I mentioned Jordan Seaton before. He's an elite pass blocker and put on apparently a ton of weight this offseason, which I love to see, because I think he played around 285, 290 last year, which is very light for a tackle. And now he's listed at 330, right? So that's a legit NFL tackle right there. And he will be probably top 10, 15 pick in the 2027 NFL draft. But Xavier Hill had an 84 PFF grade last year at Memphis and was a really, really good guard at the group of 5 level. And if he is playing guard next year, probably at left guard, I mean, that's an elite left side of the offensive line in Jordan Seaton and Xavier Hill. That should keep, whether it be Caden Salter or Julian Lewis, very, very clean on their blind side. That I think Xavier Hill is a phenomenal player, and probably outside of Salter, maybe the best player they brought in the portal, in my opinion.
It's exciting to see how that plays out. But then related to that, we opened the season with Georgia Tech at home. We saw how physical Georgia Tech was when they probably should have beaten Georgia last year. They had them on the ropes the whole game. How much do you think that game will tell us about our quarterback situation, and then also how much we're going to fare, how well we'll fare in the trenches moving forward?
Yeah. So we actually at PFF, we are doing every preview for every team right now, and we're through the SEC Big Ten. We actually recorded the Big 12 recently too, so Colorado's coming out in a week, so very exciting. Georgia Tech, we've not gotten to the ACC yet, but I do know they're going to run the ball a lot next year, right? They're a team that is built around the run game. Haynes King is back at quarterback. He's a great dual threat at quarterback. Haynes is back too at running back. Jamal Haynes. He's a phenomenal running back, one of the 10 best running backs in the country, in my opinion. That's where it's centered around, right? You need to stop that read option. You need to stop that option attack. If you can't do it, they're going to run all over you. When you force them into more obvious passing situations, then you could have some advantages, right? Because I think Colorado's got a really good pass defense. I love their pass rush. I really like the secondary, even after losing Travis Hunter too. You need to play a lot. You need to defend the run and do that first. And then if you do that, Georgia Tech could be in a hole, honestly. And I think that's really what I would say the game plan should be for Colorado is hey, we need to stop this ground game first. And then if we do that, we'll get ahead of the 8 ball on the Yellow Jackets here.
Hey, that's the 1990 rematch, so we got to have that one, guys.
Yeah. To give context to the listeners, we split the 1990 national championship with Georgia Tech. I think 85% of our listeners know that. But yeah. Guys, do you want me to shift to the Big 12 questions and the schedule questions?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So Max, looking at CU's schedule, and then I can give you a second to pull it up because I'm sure you don't have CU's schedule memorized.
I literally just pulled it up. Yeah.
Perfect. What games on the schedule do you see as the biggest test for CU? Whether it's just going on the road and playing a solid team, or just playing a Big 12 contender? What are kind of games that pop out in your eyes?
Yeah, so let's just start off hot, right? I think Georgia Tech's a tough game. That's going to tell us a lot. But they got Delaware, who's obviously a new FBS school. Houston is actually, speaking of Delaware, I am in the middle of my dynasty for Delaware right now, and I just got curb stomped by Colorado in my second game.
Let's go.
It was brutal. I was doing everything I could out there. My defense was letting me. I'm the offensive coordinator. My defense was letting me down in that game. It was insane. But anyways, after that, you got Houston, who's obviously kind of rebuilding right now, so they should be able to win that. Wyoming win that game. BYU is reeling right now. Like, I have no idea what they're going to do at quarterback. I don't think they know what they're going to do at quarterback either. The whole red slot situation. Still some talent on that team, but I think Colorado is probably going to be favored in that game, especially at Colorado. TCU is pretty good. That's another pretty good team they're playing there. Iowa State, again, had a really good season last year, but they lost a lot of key players. They should still be a pretty good team, though. At Utah is a big one. I think Utah is one of the favorites. I think they're the betting favorite right now to win the Big 12. I wouldn't say they're the best team in the Big 12 right now, but it's at Utah, which is one of the hardest places to play in college football. They have an incredible record at home. They have the best offensive line in the Big 12 pretty easily, maybe the best in the country. A really dangerous running game too. Utah, and always a great defense under Kyle Whittingham. That's a major test on October 25th. And then after that, you got Arizona and West Virginia, who they should be able to win those two games. And then Arizona State, right, the defending Big 12 champion. They brought back two of their best players, and Sam Levitt, the best quarterback in the Big 12 by a mile. Jordan Tyson, the best receiver in the Big 12 by a mile. Those two are going to be hard to defend. But again, Colorado's strength, in my opinion, is their pass defense. And you close it out with Kansas State. And I know Colorado fans probably want to get revenge on Kansas State for last year. Again, it should be a great ground game. I mean, that's really what Kansas State's built on is their rushing attack and their defense. And it's going to stay the same in 2025. And I know a lot of Colorado fans will be looking at Dylan Edwards in that one because he's going to be the top running back for Kansas State this year after transferring from Colorado. So those are the tough ones. I think the two toughest ones for me are at Utah and at Kansas State, and then Arizona State too at home is really tough too. Those are the three that I'm saying, okay, those are three like Big 12 championship contenders. You're going to see a lot about Colorado in those three games for me.
Yeah,
I want Kansas State so bad. So bad. That was one of the games where all four of the hosts from the Folsom Frenzy podcast were at. I used to live in New York, Max, so I love your Yankees hat. I know that'll make Chase a little bit mad with that reference, but and then Chase, our other host, is out in Atlanta, so we were all at that Kansas State game, and we're heartbroken there in the fourth quarter.
I will say right here, and we're very unbiased in the PFF College Football Show, but in the back of Dawn and I's heads, we're like, we need Colorado to get as far as possible. So when they were playing Kansas State and Avery Johnson made that beautiful goal ball down the sideline, we both looked at each other like, damn. Because if they won the game, they would have been in the Big 12 title game, essentially, right? So it was like, we need – and the other one, too, Colorado was the best fan base by far. Number two, by far, was BYU. So
I remember you guys mentioning that.
Dawn and I are like, dude, can you freaking imagine if it's BYU, Colorado, Big 12? Like, we're going to get 200,000 views on that video, right? So, we don't root for schools. I root for Penn State because I'm a lifelong Penn State fan. I also went to Syracuse. So I'm going to root for Syracuse, too. But we don't really root for schools outside of that. But we do root for our show. And when Colorado did that run last year, like, dude, let's just keep this for like a Colorado playoff preview would have gone nuclear last year, right? So that was one game too. I know you guys are heartbroken, obviously, as lifelong Colorado fans, and Dawn and I, as in the interest of our show, where we were heartbroken a little bit too by that game.
Yeah, that almost becomes a podcast episode where you have to be careful what you say because they might clip one little part of it that's viral because we were constantly worried about that too. Like, just be careful. Like, if you say something really messed up, it's going to go mega viral because literally everything Colorado is doing that. It was wild.
Dude, Kansas State used they used Dawn and I in a hype video. I think it was actually the Colorado game where Dawn and I were like, "I'm picking Colorado to win this game," like blah blah. Blah. And K-State in their, how teams do like the post game movie. That's always so cool. They like before the game they use like Dawn and I's voices, and I'm like, all right, fair play to that. Like that's fair, honestly. But yeah, they're a great program, honestly, and we'll see what happens this year. So final game of the season too. So maybe it has some massive stakes like it did last year.
Yeah, very exciting.
Territory. That's like a bucket list item. I hope a team uses a clip of our podcast getting my take wrong.
Usually it's not. They usually never use it when it's good, right? So it's make it like, oh, look at this clown, saying we're not going to win this game and all that.
It's going to be Chase. Chase is going to be the one on it.
Chase
always
both
has
Chase and I have clown takes. But
it's so bad. So we just went through the schedule a little bit, and we talked about our tests of Arizona State at home and at K-State. Do you think that the Big 12 has enough parity this year for the Buffs to make a run with like an 8-4 type of season?
That's 8-4 would be tough to make the Big 12 title game. Unless like the only way it could really happen is if one of those losses is Georgia Tech, and then maybe they screw up like one or the other out of conference. They really shouldn't though.
Yeah, gosh, I hope not.
And that would be disastrous. They lost to Delaware or Wyoming, but yeah, I don't think 8-4. I think 9-3 is when you start talking a little bit more. The Big 12 is wide open. I actually we were talking about it on the show. The Big 12, I believe the favorite to win the Big 12 was like plus 500 on FanDuel. The next conference that has that long of odds for the favorite is like plus 270 or plus 300, right? So that's just FanDuel saying we have no freaking idea who's winning this conference. Like everyone's up for grabs right now. And yeah, I think it's fair. I think last year was the most wide open conference by a mile. We didn't even know who was playing the title game until like midnight on the last week of the season. Yeah, I think it's the most wide open conference again in 2025. This makes it one of the more entertaining conferences in college football.
But then also looking at the schedule, we kind of see you kind of listed off a couple teams that were just, that they should win that game. They should win that game, right? So in conference, you said Arizona, West Virginia. We know West Virginia is kind of predicted to be struggling this year with their new coach. Arizona struggled last year, and it doesn't seem like they're heading in a great direction. Even so, Houston, they really struggled offensively last year, but they showed some things defensively. Like they gave BYU a bit of a scare at the end of the season, which I know all CU fans were watching closely. Upstart program making their first year in FBS in Delaware. And you know that just like last year with North Dakota State, they're going to be looking to try to make a statement because this could be their biggest opportunity to make a national statement all year, maybe even for several years. So what do you view as the biggest trap game where we might be looking at it right now like, oh, that's an easy dub, but we might end up looking like, oh, wow, that was way closer than we thought?
Good question. I think I'm going to go with you better be careful with BYU. That is a school that I think a lot of people are writing off right now, including like I even said before, like I don't know what to do at quarterback, but like they have a lot of talent on that team coming back, and they would have been like a top 15 to 20 team in the country had Retzlaff not left the program, right? So I know they have a brand new quarterback that is not probably ready as of right now to start week one. But that's a program that shows a lot of talent offensively and defensively. You can't mess around BYU like they proved last year too. And then the other one, TCU. I think TCU is a really, really fun team. I think they're a team that can make a lot of noise in the Big 12 next year. Maybe not win the conference, but they're all – and again, that's a road game too. That's not a team that you want to mess around with either. So actually in back-to-back weeks, I would say the two trap games might be BYU and TCU. Iowa State's not really a trap game considering like they made the Big 12 title game last year. But I would say the two ones is like, hey, don't mess around with that team is probably BYU and TCU.
It should be a fun run to start the conference season.
Yeah, that TCU takes good. I think they're sneaky good. But also looking at the Big 12, Brett Yormark came out and said he expects two Big 12 teams to make the college football playoff. Again, like what else are you going to say as the Big 12 commissioner? I know SEC fans and Big 10 fans were piling on him for saying that. Do you see in any world that's possible, Max? And in addition to CU, who would be the other team that makes college football playoff? But just kidding. Who would be the top two teams you can maybe see sneaking in there?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not possible. I mean, be blunt with the CU fans here.
They can make again, the Big 12. I'm not saying anything's impossible. Like, listen, Dawn and I, when we did the previews for every team last year, we looked at Arizona State and we're like, there's no freaking way they like win more than 4 or 5 games, and they won the Big 12. So like this conference is so freaking ridiculous that I'm not ruling out anyone for this conference. Now, I think Colorado is one of the more better teams in the conference. Like maybe not the elite of the elite, but they're one of the better teams. The problem with multiple teams in the playoff though is that for that to happen, it can't be a wide open conference. It needs to be like 2 teams that are just head and shoulders above everyone else that are like 11-1 or 10-2 at the end of the year and then meet in the title game and then one of them loses. You can't have a 9-3 and a 10-2 team make the title game because then the loser of that game is out because they're not going to put in a 3-loss Big 12 team, right? So the Big 12 almost like by how wide open it is and how much parity there is in the conference, it's kind of screwing itself over from getting multiple teams because it's just everyone can lose every single week. It's not going to be like 1 or 2 elite teams at the end of the year. To answer your question of who I think is going to be in it at the end of the year, I think I'm going to pick Texas Tech to win the conference. I think what they did this offseason was absolutely ridiculous in terms of the portal. And I know there's a billionaire alum, I believe Cody Campbell's his name. He's funneling money into that program right now. They've done an amazing job of rebuilding that roster in the portal. I'm picking them to win. And then I like Utah a lot. If they're probably my team that I picked to make the title game and lose to Texas Tech. And then Kansas State's always going to be up there. They're always consistently up there. And then I probably after that started looking at a school like Colorado or TCU or Arizona State. Obviously, Arizona State's going to be up there too, considering what they did last year and who they brought back. But those are the next ones. But I would say right now, Texas Tech, Arizona State, Utah, and those are probably the 3 that I would say are pretty clear favorites for me right now in that conference.
Yeah. Utah. I like Utah sneaky. We'll see if they can bounce back this year. But Sirius, you want to go ahead and
it's almost like Utah. Yeah, I will. But just real quick on Utah, it almost seems like they kind of quit last year because we could see how much trench talent they have every year, and it's almost like you can plug in pieces around their always stout OL and DL and just have a good season. But it almost seems like they gave up. So new season, I could 100% see.
And Kyle Whittingham wins 8, 9, 10 games every single year. Like this is like the one disastrous year he's had there in like 20 years as their head coach. And that was because they had 4 different starting quarterbacks like the entire season, right? So it's just like I don't blame him for like giving up in the year. It's like, dude, this is just you can't do it like this, right? So they have a great quarterback coming in, and Devin Dampier coming in from Mexico, who's a really, really talented kid. He's an electric player. And then their O-line is disgustingly good. Like they have the best offensive lineman in the country in Spencer Fano at right tackle, maybe a first-round pick at left tackle in Caleb Lomu, and then one of the best guards in the country in Tanoa Togiai, and I believe the other 2 starters too are both returning starters too. That offensive line is disgusting. And then Kyle Whittingham always has a really good defense on that side of the ball too. Utah is going to have a big bounce-back year, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think we all kind of see it, so it'll be exciting to continue our annual matchup, which is, I guess, hopefully going to be a rivalry at some point. The Pac-12 really tried to force that on us, but it never really took off. But either way, looking forward, I just mentioned the Pac-12, which is now essentially the Mountain West. And so now we're in the Big 12, which is kind of like taking pieces of the Pac-12 and taking pieces of other conferences. And we all know right now everything is unsettled ground on college football. Everything's going to change. Nothing feels the same anymore. So looking further into the future, CU is back where they started, kind of, right? Maybe in 2009. But what is the Big 12 going to look like, in your opinion, in, let's say, 5 to 10 years? Is it still going to be there? Is it going to merge with the ACC? What are we staring at in the future here?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because I know the SEC and Big Ten are really just trying to, and they have established themselves as like the conferences right now. I think the ACC and Big 12 are safe for now. I think we're kind of in this 4-conference system, and I think it's going to be like that. I don't see this whole 2 mega conferences happening anytime soon, at least. So, yeah, I think it's where we're at now is pretty stable. I think what we had a couple of years ago where literally everyone was changing conferences, that should not happen for a little bit. Now, maybe the ACC, maybe Clemson or Florida State or Miami looks to the SEC and says, oh, we should join that conference right now. Something like that, maybe. And then the ACC probably goes to the chaos. Big 12-wise, though, I don't think they're in danger of losing anyone else. Like, and this is not a shot against the Big 12, but like I don't really know what other teams the Big 10 or SEC would really be like really going after, like how they went after Texas and Oklahoma. So I think for right now, we're okay. I don't envision this at least changing drastically anytime soon. But again, that could be totally wrong because of just how insane college football has been recently. So I could be wrong, but I think where we're at right now is where we're going to be at for at least the next few years.
Well, that's good news, I guess. A little stability in the college football game is always appreciated.
Screw that. So
coming into
see you to the Big Ten. Here we come, baby.
See you to the Big Ten. We're starting this campaign right now.
That's going to get
flipped. Nebraska's running from us, and we're coming. We are coming to the Big Ten because Nebraska keeps running from us. Anyways, what do you think the biggest storylines for A, the Big 12 conference, and then B, college football generally is coming into this season?
Yeah, I think the one biggest storyline that when Dylan and I are previewing every team, is like every single team feels like they have a huge question mark at quarterback. There are a few schools that I'm like, okay, they're set at quarterback, like say Penn State or LSU or Clemson or anything like that. For everyone else, is like, okay, you either have a brand new starter who you're really excited about, but nobody knows how good he is yet, or it's a guy that has to get a lot better from last year. It's like that too. I think that applies to the Big 12. I think outside of Arizona State that has a star in Sam Leavitt, pretty much everyone else is like either has a brand new starter or has a guy that needs to get a little bit better or a lot better. So I think that's the storyline for me this year. And there's some huge programs that have brand new starters at quarterback with varying amounts of hype, like Texas, like Alabama, like Georgia, like Oregon. And that applies to the Big 12 too, right? Like schools like Utah are breaking in a brand new transfer at quarterback. There's a lot of other schools too that you look at, that need BYU, obviously, from last year too. Colorado has a brand new quarterback, right? So the amount of schools that just have a massive unknown at quarterback, whether it be a new starter or a guy that needs to get a lot better, it feels like it's more than it has been in recent years.
Yeah, another Big 12 quarterback I think has been solid. That's a returner is Rocco Becht. I think he'll be a great stable for Iowa State. So, Reyes, do you want to ask your question towards the end there?
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I can't read.
I can ask it too.
But related. No, it is related to all this though. But
I will say the one thing with Rocco Becht though, like losing those two receivers, that could be a big issue for Iowa State next year. With Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel were two electric players. I think Becht had some issues last year, and I think without those two guys, he's another guy where it's like, okay, you got to prove it without those two guys now. So that's one thing I'm kind of nervous about with Iowa State next year.
Yeah, that's fair. But I guess the big question overall, and this is kind of the elephant in the room for all college football fans, your fan side putting on your fan hat here, this just feels different, doesn't it? I mean, I remember what college football was like growing up. Growing up a CU fan, Jake, Iowa State fan. Growing up,
I grew up an Iowa State fan. Yeah.
And it just feels different, like with all the attrition. And I know we're all used to seeing the same faces over and over again, and it's almost like a little fatiguing, right? What's your take on all of that? Does it still retain some of that excitement for you, or is it kind of starting to change?
No, it still has the magic, in my opinion. It's changed in terms of roster building, which has made it a little more professional than some people might like. But I think that's made it exciting too. Like I think the thing about college football that I kind of love now, the one thing that's it's made it more like the pro game, which is of course you'd never want it to be completely like the NFL because it will never be the NFL considering it's not as good as the NFL, right? And you still want that part in it, but the one thing I love, at least as a content creator for college football, that I love is like once the national championship's over in a decade ago, like we would be like, okay, 8 months away until we start really talking about the season again. Like transfer portal is going crazy. Like you never know who's going to enter it. You rebuild the roster overnight. You need to have your players stay there. Recruiting is getting crazy with NIL too. Like the offseason for college football has all of a sudden become like a massive, massive storyline. When in the past, like players would transfer, but like it was never anyone that big that would transfer. Usually it was like a guy who was like a third stringer that would go somewhere else. Like now you're seeing like top end talent leave every single year. that's made the offseason of college football a lot more exciting. And also, I love the new playoff too, because at the end of the year, we're not talking about back in the BCS days. It's like, okay, here's the 3 schools with 5 weeks left in the season. 2 of these schools will go to the national title game, and the other one will be left out. Now it's like, hey, we have 2 weeks left. There are 30 teams that are still alive for this college football playoff right now. So like games that weren't like that massive in prior years are huge games now. Like some of these Big 12 games, like last year, I hate to say it, like some of the Big 12 games wouldn't have been that big because it's like, well, it doesn't matter who wins the conference. They're not making a 14 playoff anyways. Now it's like, no, it really matters who wins the conference now. So all these games in the Big 12 were like much bigger than they were in past years. So yes, a lot's changed. And I know some that is not for the better. I will admit that. But the transfer portal and the expanded playoff, I've been a big fan of that, honestly.
And actually, like now that you expressed it that way, I think that most CU fans would agree with you too, because given where we were in 2022, I mean, part of why we were where we were in 2022 is because it's just pre-portal, but because of all the transfers out. We had a 4-8 team in 2021, but what was left of the talent was all gone, like between Brendan Rice and Mekhi Blackman and all those guys. So we almost got us into trouble, but we wouldn't be where we were now, like turn it around from absolutely nothing in 2 years without it. So you bring up a good point. There's still a lot of excitement.
One thing I'll say too for Heisman Trophy, a stat that I always love looking at. I believe you look at like Travis Hunter, transfer, Jaden Daniels, transfer, Caleb Williams, transfer, Bryce Young, not transfer, Devontae Smith, not transfer, Joe Burrow, transfer, Kyler Murray, transfer, Baker Mayfield, transfer. Like you go back to 2017, the only 2 who are not transfers that won the Heisman were Devontae Smith and Bryce Young. This is like you need to be hitting the portal because the next Heisman Trophy winner, most likely, based on recent history, is going to be a guy who transferred at least once.
Caden Salter, transfer. Get ready.
Love it.
Start the campaign right now.
Yeah. Saray, that 22 group, that wasn't Jordan Tyson, right? That was 23.
Yeah, so Jordan Tyson left when Prime came in. That was when he tore his ACL in 22. That hurt.
That was the biggest loss by far.
That receiving core last year, or Travis Hunter? My God, dude, that would have been.
Or this year. I mean, we would love it this year.
Yeah, he was a post spring game transfer too. So I remember we had a couple guests on in the kind of the spring off season, and at least a couple of them, it might have even been BMAC, right? Brandon McCartney. He might have even named Jordan Tyson as his breakout star, who is going to be the big player for the year. We all knew it was coming, right?
We knew what we had. Yeah,
because I mean, I think before last season, he had her last punt return for a touchdown too against ASU, ironically, right?
Wow.
So that, seeing him, I was personally very glad to see him succeed because it was just a tough situation with his injury, and then Prime bringing in, focusing on position groups like the skill heavy position groups, but things have really worked out for him, and he's a star.
So, Max, we've slowly been taking a step back, started with the Buffs and the Big 12 in college football. One area we wanted to ask you is the NFL. We knew you're a big Shedeur guy. Wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think he'll start for the Browns? What is your prediction for Shedeur for his NFL career? I know that's a big question, but would love to hear your thoughts for him.
Yeah, I think he's pretty easily the best quarterback on that roster right now. The problem is, and I think he's starting, like, I've seen some clips, and I know it's just training camp clips or whatever, off-season clips. It doesn't really matter that much, but it seems like he's doing really well. But the problem is starting a guy who was taken in the 5th round, week 1, over a guy who was taken in the 3rd round. Like, it's almost like it doesn't make sense almost to your head when you're like, wait, you took a guy 2 rounds earlier, but he's backing up the guy who you took 2 rounds. Like, it's almost like, what are you, like – so the Browns are just a disaster, honestly, right now. I think there's no way around it. That offense is just even if Shedeur plays, like that offense is just is horrendous. You look at what they have that receiving core is just maybe the worst in the NFL that I've seen in the last few years. Offensive line is getting old and not as good as it used to be. And the run game, I like Judkins and Sampson, but Judkins just got arrested a couple days ago. So it's just like not a lot's going right now. I don't think he'll start week 1. I think eventually he could get some action. I think all 4 of them could get action. I think Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders probably will all see action just for Cleveland to figure out what the heck they have at quarterback. But I think he's the best one on the roster. I just don't see him starting immediately because it'd be weird for Cleveland to start a 5th-round rookie when they took a 3rd-round pick at quarterback too. It's just, I don't know. I can't see that happening immediately. I would start in week 1. I just don't see Cleveland doing that though.
In terms of actual on-field performance, kind of going down the Shedeur route, what do you think could have possibly scared off teams? Like just focusing just on on-field stuff, because the off-field stuff is so muddied with hearsay, this, that going on. But then on-field, like we were just so taken aback by it. It made no sense. This goes back to all of our conversation that we just had earlier about how we felt like the national narrative around CU and Shedeur was so devoid of actually watching the tape and watching the film.
Yeah, as someone who had him as QB1, and it was very close, I will say, with him and Cam Ward, but like it was close enough where I would take a Shedeur in the top 5, top 10. Not even thought twice about it. There's not a lot to hate. The one thing I'll say, he's not the toolsiest. He's not the biggest arm, not the best runner either. And the other thing too, his pocket presence needs a lot of work. There's a lot of times last year and 2 years ago where Colorado's offensive line wasn't great, but he would also invite a lot of the pressure and invite a lot of sacks, but just hold on the ball for a very long time and break in the pocket when he didn't need to. So pocket presence is something he needs to clean up. And then just he's not the toolsiest guy in the world either. He doesn't have the arm that Cam Ward does or anything like that, but he wins with his mind. He wins with deadly accuracy. He reads defenses at an NFL level already. Again, I don't know why he fell that far. I think it had more to do with some off-the-field stuff that I wasn't privy to, that teams were obviously in the interviews. But I would take that guy in the 1st round and not thought twice about it. So there's not a lot off the field, or on the field, I should say, that I could say that is why he fell all the way to day 3 of the draft.
Mind-boggling. I hope for his sake and for CU's sake that he can find a way to buck that trend and that narrative. But I know all of us were shocked, right? I mean, I can't imagine what it was like sitting in that room, his custom room, and then you've been hearing this narrative for multiple years and all the feedback, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere he fall to day 3. It's crazy.
We got to get Shedeur out of Cleveland. But the other buff that we care about is Travis Hunter. Do you think he's going to play both ways? Is he going to have success at Jacksonville, or is Trevor Lawrence going to show us that he's not actually a good quarterback under pressure and can't get the ball to Travis?
I think Lawrence is everything he needs now in Jacksonville. Great coach in Liam Cohen. I'm excited about that. I think he's going to play receiver full-time and then also moonlight at corner a little bit. It sounds like that's what they're going to do. They're building around Lawrence. That's what they're doing in Jacksonville. And credit to them. I know some people are like, oh, man, they traded 2 first-round picks for Travis Hunter. That's a lot to move up 3 spots to get him. But think about it. You got basically 2 first-round picks in one player in Travis Hunter, right? He's a first-round corner and he's a first-round wide receiver. I would play him at both. He wants to play both. He's proven he could do it at both. I did not think he could do it coming out of high school. I thought, okay, he's got to pick one or the other. And he had the greatest 2-way season we've ever seen. Let him keep going, man. Let him fail at one. The other thing I love about Travis Hunter, too, is like, say if they have an injury at corner, like if Jarian Jones or Tyson Campbell goes down with an injury, it's like, okay, Travis, instead of you playing receivers, you're going to play corner. And you could do it and probably be very good at it, right? So, like, that's the kind of player he is. And I thought he was pretty easily the best player in last year's draft. And I think 5-10 years from now, when we look back on the 2025 NFL draft, we're like, oh, yeah, that was the draft that Travis Hunter was taken. I think he's that special of a talent. I think he's going to be one of those guys that, you remember for the rest of your life, like, man, like, yeah, some guys try to play 2 ways now, but they were never as good as Travis Hunter. I think he's truly like a generational type of football player.
Yeah, I know. Again, just all Buff Nation is super excited to see what he does in Jacksonville. So to kind of wrap this up and go back to the here and now, we talked a little bit about the schedule, and we talked a little bit about CU's competition, the Big 12, but let's try to actually put a number on it, since the win-loss is set at 6.5, and it seems like for the most part, the predictions have underpredicted CU. So year 1 under Prime, it was pretty close, actually. I think it was 3.5, and they got 4. Last year, we destroyed it, right? But then with 6.5 this year, obviously with all the question marks, but then also the promise of some of the changes been made. What's your predicted win-loss total for the Buffs?
I think in the preview I said over. I don't think it's gonna be like a 9-3 year again, like they had or last year. But I think 7-5 is probably what I would say. They'll go with a soft over. Again, they have some hard games on that schedule, right? The Georgia Tech game week 1 is pretty difficult. You got Utah on the road at Utah. You got Arizona State. You got Kansas State. Like, those are probably 3 games that they're not going to be favored in. TCU on the road is very tough too. 7-5, 8-4, I think is possible for Colorado. I don't think they're going to go under that and go 6-6 or anything like that. But maybe, listen, if they struggle with the passing game, that could be an issue for them. But I'm going to say 7-5 or 8-4 is probably what I predict for the Buffaloes right now.
Yeah, I think it's fair. We'll see where we land. Stay tuned. I think we'll do that prediction video here in the next couple of weeks to our listeners. But Max, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Just want to give a shout out to you and your YouTube channel as well as your social medias channels. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, so I host the PFF College Football Show on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. Like I said, we are currently in the process of previewing every single Power 4 team heading into next year. We actually did a 3+ hour show today, breaking down every Big 10 team. And then the Big 12 is coming out next Monday. So every Big 12 team, including Colorado, obviously, will be getting their own in-depth preview. And then pretty soon, man, in a few weeks, we'll be starting to get into game previews and game reviews like last year. And I can guarantee you right now, Colorado, Georgia Tech will be one of our week 1 previews that we do. So very excited about that, and very excited to keep talking Colorado football this year.
Sweet. It's that time of year, baby. Here we go.
Can't wait.
Thanks for joining us, Max.
Of course.